Everybody is asking the questions. They're saying, Brandy, it's time to talk. People want Brandy Norwood to talk about Clive Davis. People want Brandy Norwood to talk about the note, the Brandy and Whitney Houston note. They're saying, Brandy, it is time to talk about it. Clive Davis is gone. Now you can talk about it because you guys know Clive Davis just recently passed away. So I came across this video and they are saying, pretty much talking about it. And people are demanding that Brandy speak out about this. And I want to know, do you guys think it's fair that Black people are demanding that Brandy Norwood speak out about a note with her and Whitney Houston? Sorry, I got Wendy in my brain. I want to know your thoughts about that. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe here at this YouTube channel. And I just want to say thank you all for the likes, the comments, the shares. It really goes a long way. I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. So let's roll the clip and let's see what's really going on.
He's like my dad in a lot of ways. Once he and I got together, I knew that the combination was going to be magical.
We've had an unbelievable chemistry. Really? Sitting next to me right now is the best singer in the world.
This is not a drill. Clive Davis is dead. Right now, everybody line up, oldest to youngest. What happened? Get the biopics out now. He cannot hurt you anymore. He has no power over you.
For years, the mysterious note Whitney Houston gave to Brandy in front of Clive has haunted everyone. Because hours after she did this, she was found dead in her hotel room. And now, with Clive Davis dead, we might finally be able to know what was in that note. And baby, looks like there's going to be a surviving Clive Davis documentary coming out soon, because the artists are gearing up to reveal what they went through, now that the godfather of the music industry is gone. Now, Brandy swore never to reveal the contents of the note. But with the Grim Reaper officially out of the way, she's laying it all out, claiming that the note proves foul play in Whitney's death. Let's just get right into it, because who knew this day would come?
Whitney Houston. Now, I knew you had a connection to her, but I didn't realize, and you write in the book, that shortly before her death, you had a lengthy phone call with her.
I did.
What was that call?
It mattered so much to me because I got a chance to tell her everything I hadn't told her, just how much she inspired me, how much I loved her, her impact in my life. And yeah, it was an emotional conversation. I didn't know it was going to be my last time speaking to her.
Clive Davis is officially dead. His publicist confirmed that the man who managed to outlive so many of his biggest stars died in his home in Manhattan, New York, after battling with respiratory problems. His family released a statement saying, "To the world, our father was the iconic music legend whose vision, instinct, and relentless pursuit of excellence shaped the soundtrack of countless lives. He discovered, mentored, and championed the greatest artists in modern music history, leaving an indelible mark on culture that will endure for generations." And while Clive Davis lived a full life and died peacefully on his bed at 94, this is one of those deaths that have a lot of people feeling conflicted. On one hand, there is the whole thing of respecting the dead, especially with Clive being responsible for introducing the public to a lot of major singers. But on the other hand, he was one of the architects of the predatory and slave master nature of the modern music industry. He was a big reason why successful solo artists and groups like TLC and Toni Braxton had to file for bankruptcy over the unfair distribution of profits. Someone said Clive Davis taught Sean Combs everything he knew about power in the record business, including M-wording your artists to make yourself richer in the end, and about intimidation, making enemies disappear, and not to forget constant SA as a tool to control. And Brandy got to find out the hard way that her mentor Whitney Houston was just another person that paid the price for crossing paths with Clive Davis. Mind you, Clive met Whitney at a nightclub called Sweetwater in 1983 and signed her to Arista Records when she was just 19 years old. In the beginning, Clive positioned himself as a mentor to Whitney and played a major role in connecting her to the right people. They also worked together to shape her self-titled debut album, which went on to sell 25 million copies worldwide. When Whitney was asked about him, she said they were at each other's throats when it came to what music she should release. But he was her industry father, and she was grateful for his guidance, wisdom, and know-how.
What was it? What did you see in him? What made him different? Why Clive Davis?
Wisdom.
Yeah.
Wisdom, his know-how. For a lot of artists, I wanted the guidance. I wanted to know, what made a hit record, and what made me, special, and it could be any song.
But as Whitney became more popular and successful than either of them imagined, Clive's know-how about the industry became an obstacle to Whitney's freedom and coming into her own as an artist. So by the time 2012 came around, Clive and Whitney's relationship was pretty much non-existent. In fact, there were very few people Whitney had a close, trusting relationship with, and one of them was Brandy. Brandy and Whitney first met in 1995 and quickly formed a close bond, with Whitney being a mentor to Brandy. Because of their close relationship, Whitney made sure that Brandy played Cinderella in the 1997 movie, so that she could be her literal godmother and they could spend more time together. So, when Whitney walked onto the set when Brandy was having an interview with Monica and Clive Davis, everyone thought she had shown up just to show her support. Whitney gave Clive and Monica most of her attention, as she told Monica that she almost drowned that day, before passing a note to Brandy and hugging Clive Davis. Whitney also called her daughter Bobby to give Clive a hug, and she did that to distract him and give Brandy enough time to read the note and react without him noticing.
But Dad, I'll see you later. Mom.
Once the interview ended, Brandy hopped on a 3-hour call with Whitney, and 2 days later, the pop star was gone. So Brandy is one of the last people to have ever spoken with Whitney, and the internet has been dying to know what was so urgent for Whitney to come on the set like that. Now, Brandy made it clear that she was going to keep the contents of the notes strictly private, and the only thing she can say is Whitney promised her that she was going to get better, only for her to pass away soon after. But hearing that Clive Davis has passed away after leaving a trail of dead careers and bodies in his wake was enough for Brandy to rethink the whole thing. Because what was really keeping her quiet was the fear that he would come for her, just like he did Whitney when she wasn't ready to play ball with him anymore.
In that 1995 meeting in Beverly Hills in the home of Clive Davis, who was responsible for the murder of Whitney Houston, I said it. His days are numbered.
When Brandy did the interview in 2012, she and Monica were working together again and gearing up to release their new project, It Belongs to Me. At the time, Monica retained a close working relationship with Clive and sought his blessing and approval before going into the studio and recording the collaboration with Brandy. And reports claim that part of the reason why Clive agreed to the collab and did the interview was because he was angling to build a stronger relationship with Brandy and possibly get her to sign a deal with a record label under him. Fortunately, Whitney got word about what was about to happen, immediately packed herself up and ran straight to Brandy to warn her. And on the note, she straight up warned Brandy to run away from Clive and never look back, unless she wanted to get stuck in a contract and career that she didn't ask for. When she was starting out, Clive made sure that most of the staff on Whitney's team were people he'd worked with. He reportedly claimed that it was to get a group of professionals to prop her up from the start. But what he didn't tell her was that these people were also loyal to him and were probably looking out for his interest more than hers. Because as much as he wanted her to grow and be profitable, Clive Davis never wanted Whitney to go beyond what he could control. When he was about to release I Just Can't Stop Loving You in 1987 for his Bad album, Michael Jackson reached out to Whitney to jump on the song with him, and she was more than willing to go along with it. Both of them were friends and reportedly had a fling, so the chemistry was there. On top of that, they were uber talented, and whatever duet they did together would go up to #1 like a bullet. However, Arista Records blocked the duet and claimed that there was a problem with scheduling. Once again, Whitney wanted Michael on If I Told You That, and he was interested in joining her. But unfortunately, it fell through once again, and Arista Records claimed it was because of scheduling conflicts and some leaks. However, Whitney believed that stopping the collab both times was a deliberate attempt at sabotage, because there was a chance that working with Michael would give her some ideas about wanting more control over her music. Michael Jackson not only wrote his songs, but owned the rights to his masters, which was pretty unusual for an artist of his era, while Whitney didn't enjoy the same freedom and the financial benefits that came with it. Instead of encouraging a collab that would have defined the era, Clive specifically sent Whitney to Detroit to sing a duet with Aretha Franklin, knowing that it would not only keep her in check, but benefit him financially, since both of them were signed to Arista Records. But that didn't stop Whitney from wanting to have access to more of her music and money, and was prepared to leave Arista until she signed the $100 million deal in 2001. The label couldn't stop talking about how historic the deal was, and it got leaked that Whitney was paid $40 million up front, and the rest would be paid in stages based on the success of future albums. However, a source revealed that the label was betting on the fact that Whitney wouldn't earn that advance and deliver on her side of the contract that would require them to pay her completely. They stopped promoting her albums, blaming digital piracy as the reason why her albums weren't doing so well, and were more than okay to watch their best-selling artist flop for as long as it takes to permanently lock her in the contract. Before Whitney realized what was going on and started to fight back, it was pretty much too late. She owed the label nearly $20 million, and her career had stalled to the point that it was near impossible for her to make enough to pay them back. Also, Whitney's voice wasn't what it used to be, since her lungs were damaged from her substance use, and it couldn't support and carry her vocals. At that point, Whitney was allegedly more valuable to them dead than alive, and they just so happened to have a death clause written into her contract that allowed the label to terminate its obligations and recoup advances paid out to her when she passed away. So while we were all shocked to hear that Whitney was gone, Clive allegedly knew what was coming. It's not a coincidence that he happened to be throwing a party at the same hotel and on the same night Whitney passed, and chose to go on with it after losing someone who he said was like a daughter to him.
Well, you're a very small minority, because if you knew Whitney better, you knew she was not there to perform.
Yeah.
This was her favorite night of the year. She came out every year. This party was so part of her.
So you're saying
and
that
so that the family, we spoke to representatives of Pat, who was a manager, and Gary, who was her brother.
Her body was still upstairs.
But we dedicated the evening. Whitney would have wanted this party to go on any more than the Grammys should stop.
Whitney also knew it was coming after the first drowning attempt failed, and she had to make sure that at least one person knew what really happened to her if she couldn't turn it around. This drama with Whitney was one situation Clive wasn't able to recover from, because it exposed to the world just how exploitative he was to her and the black music industry. And with Brandy telling Whitney's story, folks are finally calling Clive out for the mess he left behind. Clive Davis was a parasite on the Black American community in the music business. He preyed on Whitney Houston and other artists. He took their masters and left them broke and penniless. Very few artists made any money while he was in charge of their career. Clive Davis was not a good guy, nor did he do good things for the music industry. He made good sound, but he didn't make good culture. The music industry has been used to deliver a plethora of perversion to our culture, and Davis was at the heart of a lot of it. Whitney Houston gave Clive Davis so much love and loyalty while she was here, only for him to exploit and abandon her in the end. Not to mention, he often tried to limit her through